Hey, this is Max. This is another CSR2 video. I am here today with the 570VX, one of the prior PC cars. This is a good T5 PC car to get. The 1LE Camaro is also very good, and so is this season's AMG GTR. All three of these cars, when utilizing the parts given to you during the PC Cup and Supply Cup, you can build it up to a pretty nice level. However, out of the three, this is the easiest one to max. Using 570S bought from the dealership, you could completely max this T5 4-star car. Even if you pull it from the crate, this is a good car to have. One of the complaints I see from players on Facebook is that they find when they tune this to max and evo, they do not beat dyno. That is a common situation with this car because it is rather hard to shift at max evo with a tight transmission gearing and quick shifts. Even if you launched it very well, the chances are that you will cut it close to dyno but not quite hit it, or it's slightly slower than what dyno says you should be doing. That is a very common thing with this car when it's set up to max evo. 9.26, 9.33, so we're a little behind. So there are different ways to beat dyno with this car. It's actually a very flexible car in setting. I love this car for that reason. You can beat dyno by the simple method I'm going to show, which is simply doing a gear change. Instead of having your top speed at the gear that you had before, which is 7th, you move it to 6th, or even better, 5th to top out. You'll have a huge drop in evo. So you have to understand that this is going to theoretically run a lot slower, from a 9.3, a 9.2 down to a 10.096. But by lowering the gear ratio the way you did, you can now launch late, ride the nitrous, and force the car to essentially beat its slower time, because theoretically it is really a 9.2 car that's been artificially slowed down to do 10.0. So the least it can do is going to be better than what the dyno says. And that is the case. In this case, it runs a 9.736 very easily on a 10.0 dyno. Now, it can actually beat it probably by a little bit more with certain setups utilizing a more noticeable evo drop. How you find that is you slowly lower your final drive and you watch for a large drop in evo points when you hit a certain point. You will see that if your power isn't so great that it's going to override the grip at all times. Now, this has been having some pretty even drops in points, so that means at any one of these spots you will be able to essentially beat dyno, but it's not a particular spot that's going to do it for you. Okay, what if you don't lower it as much? Let's say you put it here where it still has a very high evo, not as high as 9.2s, but it'll say it'll do 9.6. It's going to be a little bit harder to beat dyno with, but it is possible even with a 1 gear drop. And that is a technique that I use as well, depending on how much I want to have margin of error for beating dyno. What I'll do is I will lower it by 1 gear or 2 gears. The main thing to keep in mind is if you want to make good RP, you want to have the evo points over 1,000. Okay, at about 700, you want over 1,000. Now, this setup with 1 gear drop will only give you a dyno beating of about 0.15, which is about 1/10 to 2/10. Still pretty useful in live. Certainly would be competitive, but it's not super competitive. Now, if you put it somewhere in between here, you will now be looking at 9.899 and still be able to run the better time. Now, you may be able to beat dyno now by about, I would say, 3/10 more easily. One of the key things at this point is do not launch perfect. You'll get a 0 RPM drop, but you can otherwise launch it slightly late and drive it just like you would normally without going into the final gear. you would go to 6 and kind of leave it there and not go into 7. This should also be dyno 9.6, okay, but that is on a 9.899. We had a 9.651 dyno before. We ran a 9.5 something, so that was only about a tenth. This is about 2/10, and the lower you go on the final drive, the greater you're going to beat dyno by, but the lower your evo is going to get. Again, I would not recommend you to run it for anything less than 900 evo, because you're not going to get full RP for live racing, and it certainly would hurt you. There's also, I'm having the tire maximum grip. Now there are ways to play with this where you can get a slightly more aggressive drop without having as many parts, but that unfortunately would require you to figure out where your car is at with regard to power to the ratio of grip, and that's not something I can really teach on a video. You really have to play with it. But what happens is that with every one of these cars, there's kind of a balance between when your upgrades give so much power that it simply overrides the grip even if it's at 0. If it cannot do that on certain cars, and not all cars, that's where this kind of a final drive drop can give you a dyno beating too. It doesn't work on all cars, but it works very well for the VX. And I know there are a lot of people that love this car, but they're struggling to beat dyno. And this is how you run into guys that seem to always run it faster than the lobby is doing it. So I hope this video is helpful to someone, and you learn something that can make you more competitive in live. Live racing is fun. It's fun to win. So, you know, I share this kind of advice and information with my team, and many of my guys have benefited from it when they finally figured out how to get their car under dyno. There are other ways to more aggressively do this, but in any case, I don't tune to go in negative, because you don't make RP, and you're not going to be in a milestone crew for very long if you're getting 200 RP per race. People also use aggressive version of this kind of tune to bet you 200K and try to get your money. Well, I mean, that's part of the game, right? So if you don't want to lose money, don't bet. That's my advice. You can get as much money simply trading with another player back and forth. In 2 days of trading, I have made about 2.5 million. You know, 50, 60 trades back and forth. So yeah, you're going to burn some gold, but you know what? The games give you so much gold that unless you're a capper, and I'm not, you're not going to burn up all your gold. I fortunately have the original side goals, which gives a lot more gold per goal reached. At about 150, you kind of build up gold pretty easily. If you like the video, please leave a like. Make comments if you have questions. I respond to them pretty quickly. And as always, if you like my videos, subscribe to the channel. This way you can see updates as they come in. Thank you for watching, and I hope this was helpful to someone.